just read it anyway. When the eastern horizon became tinged with the redness that heralds the rising of the sun, I guess you've got the same improperly edited translation I've got here. It says, with the redness that thee heralds the rising of the sun rises. It should be the redness that heralds the rising of the sun. The jewel among the Brahmins, Lord Gaurasundar, immediately awakened. Taking his devotees with him, he journeyed through the towns and villages of Nadia. The mridungas sounded tat-tai, tat-tai, and the judges, that's the wampers as we call them, the large metal cartels that look like the small cymbals in that kirtan played in time. Lord Gauranga's golden form slightly trembled in ecstatic love of God, and his foot bells jingled. Lord Chaitanya called out to the townfolk, you spend your nights uselessly sleeping and your days decorating your bodies. Now just fill your mouths with the holy names, Mukunda, Madhava, Yadava, and Hari, chanting without offense. With every... Now, you have achieved this rare human body. Don't you care for this gift? If you do not worship the darling of Mother Yasoda now, great sorrow awaits you at the time of your death. With every rising and setting of the sun, a day passes and is lost. Why then do you remain idle? It should be why, not when. Why then do you remain idle and not serve the Lord of the heart? You should understand this essential fact. Life is temporary and filled with various kinds of miseries. Therefore, carefully take shelter of the holy name and remain always engaged in his service as your eternal occupation. Desiring to bless all living entities, the sweet name of Krishna has descended to this material universe and shines like the sun in the sky of the heart, destroying the darkness of ignorance. Drink the pure nectar of the holy name of Krishna, and thus satisfy the soul of Bhakti Vinod. There is nothing except the holy name within all the 14 worlds. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Yes. Is it on the board already up here? Great. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. We're reading text number 41 of the Adi. Of
It's a famous verse.
Really?
It's one of the most famous.
Really? Wow. Yes, that's why we wanted it to be on the board. It wasn't on the board. They didn't have it
Oh,
up. So
really?
we request it to go up because everyone should learn this verse, if you can. Especially those who are of Indian origin of one form or another. And there's 2 or 3 in this room who are of Indian origin. There are many of them outside. I don't know, they may know this already. Here's another one coming here. Gone again. Came in, went out quick. Here he comes. This especially is for everyone, but it's particularly for those of Indian origin to take seriously. Huh? But later on we see Lord Chaitanya says, everyone, I order everyone in the universe to preach Krishna consciousness, not just those who are Bharata Bhumite. So kindly repeat. Bharata Bhumite Haila Manushya Janmajar Janma Sataka Karikara Para Upakara Bharata Bhumite Haila Manushya Janmajar Janma Sataka Karikara Para Upakara Bharata Bhumite Haila Manushya Janmajar Janma Sataka Karikara Para Upakara Bharata Bhumite Haila Manushya Janmajar Janma Sataka Karikara Para Upakara Bharata Bhumite Haila Manushya Janmajar Janma Sataka Karikara Para Upakara Bharata Bhumite Haila Manushya Janmajar Janma Sataka Karikara Para Upakara. I will be asked like to chant a very, very famous and important verse. Okay, Bharata. And most of you are aware of what Bharata means. It's a very nice preparation made with yogurt and, right? And vada, you like soak the vada in Bharat, they call it Bharat. From India, so it must be to do with India also. But in this case, it means of India.
Of India.
Have they changed the name yet or not, or is it still India? They were talking about changing it. They were talking of changing it.
Yes.
They have?
Not yet.
Not officially. They're thinking about it still. Bhumite, in the land. Haila, has become. Manusha, human being. Janma, birth. Yara, anyone. Janma, such a birth. Sartaka, fulfillment. Kari, doing so. Kara, do. Para, others. Upakara, benefit. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Quite a long purport. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsh, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. And the purport Srila Prabhupada writes, the magnanimity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressed in this very important verse. Although he was born in Bengal, and Bengalis, therefore, have a special duty toward him. And there's no Bengalis in this room at the moment. There's plenty of them, I think, outside still. Are they still outside, cooking or getting ready? I saw many of them coming in this morning. Yeah, dozens of them were walking in the gate during the morning japa session. Some of them stayed overnight.
There's 3 in that ashram.
Huh? 3 were staying in the ashram overnight. They're going for a transcendental program on the coast to Jagannath Puri. No, somewhere like that. I don't know where exactly it is. And that's nice. They're getting together. There's many, many children. We program last week. There were dozens of little children at the program with the Bengali children. And that's part of Sangha, that you go with the families and gather together doing kirtan and so on. So they're going somewhere in Normandy today. 100 or so of them, apparently. Of course, we won't have most of their association here, unfortunately. What to do? Although he was born in Bengal, and Bengalis therefore have a special duty toward him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is addressing not only Bengalis, but all the inhabitants of India. It is in the land of India that actual human civilization can be developed. That's an interesting point, isn't it? Supposed to be, and you can see that basically speaking, it's one Prabhupada would say, most Indian people, Krishna consciousness is in everyone's heart, but in most people it's pretty covered over. Indian people, you scratch the surface and it easily comes out. But with most people, they're so covered with illusion and misconceptions and terrible attachments to falsities, even in the name of religion. They're blinded. Human life is especially meant for God realization. As stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Tato Brahma Jignasha. Anyone who takes birth in the land of India, Bharata Varsh, has the special privilege. It's not mentioned here duty, but Prabhupada uses the word privilege. What does privilege mean? What would you say? Privilege. What does it mean? Pardon?
Special mercy.
You could use that word, special mercy, yes. Anything else?
Sort of like something, an opportunity
Unique.
not everyone has. Sort of
That's
like
right.
Exclusive opportunity.
Exclusive opportunity. That would be a good word, I think, to describe it. Exclusive opportunity. And now all the Bengalis are starting to arrive now to take this. You're a Bengali, aren't you? Yes. So you've just come at the right moment. This is your responsibility. Not ours, yours. But you're Nepali, you're almost Indian. As good as, huh? I know, but you're as good as Indian. You're from South India? Sri Lanka, it's the same. Only reason, they're all really part of India in reality, let's face it. You're from Bangladesh or from where? So that was also, all these countries, they're trying to escape from the responsibility, They take birth in Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh. Well, no, I'm not from India, they say. I'm from Nepal. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm from Sri Lanka. But in reality, it's all the same country, divided up over history. But whatever. Where are we now? Yes, special privilege of being able, and the privilege in this case is the good fortune. It's a very fortunate birth to take birth in India or similar places. It's very fortunate because you have this opportunity, special opportunity. Okay, so let's put it a little bit less kind of exclusive in a sense, but less a special opportunity right from birth, practically speaking, to have this hearing, especially those in Bengal, mostly at least the religious people. They hear about Lord Chaitanya, but unfortunately they don't always hear about him in the right way. But it's nonetheless part of their culture. Privilege of being able to take advantage of the instruction and the guidance of the Vedic civilization. So north, south, east, and west, all the various, let's say, parts of India, the people there are some way or another connected to the Vedic way. Prabhupada uses the word Vedic civilization. The Vedic way, the way of life guided by the Vedas. He ultimately receives the basic principles of spiritual life. And many of you have been to India. Even an ordinary rickshaw walla, probably sometimes, even a bungi, one who's cleaning the drains, if they're Hindu at least, you ask them, who are you? What will they say? Pardon? Yeah, they'll say, I'm a spirit soul, not this body. You ask even the most erudite scholar, and even in the case of most people who are following religion who they are, they don't have a clue who they are. Not a clue. Even the leaders of the greatest religions in the world don't have a clue who they are, practically. They have no idea of karma, no idea of the nature of the soul, not even much idea of God. People are so much in illusion of the real knowledge. This is the only knowledge that's worth knowing. But they practically have no idea. Some do, but very few. And even theoretically, we also may have that knowledge. How much realization we have is another thing. But at least we try to mold our lives based on that principle. Most people don't. But in India, whether they do mold their lives or not, but at least they have that knowledge that I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. That much they have. Even simple, Prabhupada said, even simple village farmers and others who are neither educated nor sophisticated believe in the transmigration of the soul. Who was that yesterday said to me? One of the devotees was distributing books. And was it you? I don't know. They tried to explain, maybe it was Jiva Pran, I don't know, that this book is about reincarnation. And the person replied, it's not about reincarnation, it's about egoism. And walked off. Well, maybe we do have a little bit of false ego there as well. But that's not what the book's about. Yeah. Difficult to get through to some people. No? Just like that lady yesterday. I don't want my daughter to take this book. You cannot take this book, she was saying. This is a sect. My wits or my intelligence didn't act quickly enough. Little time after that, I thought that I really should have asked her, I'm sorry, I don't know what a sect is. Can you please explain to me what is a sect? You should have asked that question, because people don't know what it means. It's just a label which they slam on anything they don't understand practically. They don't know what it means. It's important, if you're making a claim, you have to know what your claim is. No?
Can you tell?
Look it up in the dictionary. Go for it, you've got a mobile phone. Look it up, sect. You'll find maybe slightly different definitions in different places, but the root meaning of a cult or a sect is not quite what people use it in terms of. Everything can be called a sect if you really want to look at it. But look it up in your dictionary. Go on. It's on the mobile. Anyone has a mobile, look it up. That's what they're for. I think Google Guru is awake already or not? Is Google Guru woken up or is he sleeping still? Did he get up this morning? I didn't see him at Mangalarti.
A group of people with somewhat different religious beliefs.
Group of people with what?
Is heretical from those of a larger group.
Louder and clear, I didn't hear a word.
A group of people.
Stay still. Can't hear it. It's
A
throwing me
group
out.
of people with somewhat different religious beliefs, typically regarded as heretical from those of a larger group to which they belong.
It's not really anything, is it? I mean, it doesn't really mean anything, you know. And if you take a larger group, then, you know, we're a pretty large group. There's only 1 billion of them.
There's another point below. It's a philosophical or political group, especially one regarded as extreme or dangerous.
Yeah, there you go. So that concludes quite a lot of people on this planet, you know. It can include, I mean, in one sense, we don't want to mention, but it could include a large section of, you know, so-called mainline. Oh, look over the history of the world, the way that some of the modern, you know, accepted religions have spread. Put yourself in the hands of, or the place of the people on the other side. They're definitely dangerous people. They'll cut your head off if you don't agree with what I say.
Yeah.
Actually, we are the only non-sect.
In reality, yes. In reality, you know, in Kali Yuga, of course,
Yes.
you know, it'll become anything that's not an atheism is a sect, basically. Atheism, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, will be the only acceptable philosophy. Everything else is considered dangerous. So that's what's happening. And, you know, a little unnerving sometimes, but it's where the world's going. Practically, we don't have to beat around the bush. We're living in a situation where this is already practically being applied. But in India, Prabhupada says here that, and they believe in past and future lives. They say no reincarnation. I say, well, what happens when you die? You go to heaven or hell? I go to heaven, you go to hell. Well, who goes to heaven, who goes to hell? You know, the body or what? Whatever it is, something is carrying on there, isn't it? I suppose if you're going to be in hell, something's there. They say you go to hell. So whoever you are. So that means you carry on, doesn't it? You rot there for eternity. So that means you carry on for quite a long time, I guess. Right? Eternity means eternity, doesn't it? Actually, is a contradiction, because eternity means no beginning and end. But then you say, well, what about, you know, before this? I mean, if you say eternity, it means I existed before this life? No. You didn't. You started in this lifetime, some people say. You've got one chance only. If you blow it, you're finished. Eternal. Better surrender quick. Yes. You know, they say these things to children sometimes, you know, it's like very simplistic. And the basic thing is to grasp the concept of eternity. In other words, reincarnation. It's a principle of eternity rather than a principle of how that applies to the soul, which you don't even know what is the soul anyway. But it's an understanding that life is eternal. When we understand life is eternal, where's the question of anything other than that? Reincarnation means you still exist in another form, that's all. You have to. You haven't eternally, even in this lifetime, Your form now is not the same as it was 30 years ago, right? It's totally changed, practically, even from the scientific point of view, it's totally changed. It's not the same form. That's another form of reincarnation, if you want to look at it from that definition. What to speak of when we die. Something goes somewhere. If you die when you're a kid, are you in heaven as a kid? If you die as an old man with cancer, are you like you're in heaven with cancer or what, What is it that goes? Where, when, what stage? Obviously, anyone with a billionth of a percent of intellect would understand it's not the body. You see old people there, or what? Are they young, babies, dogs? I mean, what is it that goes there? It's not the body. But there's no think, they don't think or not think, it's just you don't ask these questions. So to find out what is it, and you can go on in this subject matter, but this is kind of like, at least it's pretty simple. It's people in you're talking about, I'm not this body, what are you talking about? Something wrong with you? You think you're the body? In the West, if you say you're not the body, they think there's something wrong with you. You go to the doctor and say, doctor, I've got a really big problem. Okay, well, tell me what's wrong with you. You've got a, problem with your heart, you've got a problem with your stomach or what? Tell me. No, doctor, I think I'm the body. Excuse me? I think I am the body. I've got a really big problem. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Excuse me, I just got to go outside for a second here. Got a nutcase here. Come over quickly and take him away. At the mental hospital, you've got some space for him. He could be very dangerous, this guy. No way of telling what he's going to do next. Isn't it? Most people would have some kind of, Incredible how dark and how ignorant we are. These ideas are the natural inheritance of a person born in India. India has many holy places of pilgrimage, such as Gaya, Benares, Mathura, Prayag, Vrindavan, Hardwar, Rameshwaram, Jagannath and Jagannath Puri, and of course many, many others. And still people go there by the hundreds and thousands. Has anyone been for the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad? Did you ever go, Krishna Kripa Prabhu?
No.
I've never been either. I've been to Allahabad, but I never went when it was Kumbh Mela. No one can count. You ever been? You went to the Mela in Hardwar, That's also pretty big. In various places they have huge religious gatherings. As far as I've heard, the one in Allahabad is the biggest on the planet. They have at least 12 million people attend. That's more than the population of Paris at one Mela. And I don't know, I'm sure there are some records, but there's barely any record of, any skirmishes or, fights or anything. You don't have to have 55,000 policemen there to regulate it. There's obviously some, but most people there is amazing. I mean, what I've heard anyway, I've never been, but it's incredible how the people are so, let's say, respectful. 12 million gathered in one place, living in very austere, many of them just lying on the floor in the middle of winter. There's no heat. It's almost freezing. And they all want to take bath in the Ganga, which is, at that time, January. It was in January. It was the coldest time of the year. People happily, enthusiastically sharing whatever they've got, prasadam, whatever, clothes, so that everyone can participate in this great festival, devotional festival, or whatever they see it as. Although the present leaders of India are influencing the people not to believe in God, as Prabhupada is writing 50 years ago, 40, 50 more years ago. Yeah, exactly 50 years ago, 1974. About the time Prabhupada was writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, wasn't it? Maybe a little more than that. But definitely was. I mean, there's a sentiment, at least now, a little bit more encouragement for, God consciousness there. They encourage them not to believe in the next life and not to believe in a distinction between pious and impious life, as we see in the Western world. Everywhere you see different standards. Some places it's almost considered, I mean, when I was a kid, it was almost irreligious to be vegetarian. It was a religious act to eat meat. And not to eat meat was considered to be almost like irreligion. To a certain extent, although not exclusively, but to a certain extent, even intoxicants, especially of certain kinds. I mean, tea and coffee, how many people consider that an act of irreligion? In India, nobody does, right? Tea especially. If you don't drink tea in India, what's wrong with you? Cigarettes for many people, not so much, but in some places it also was, maybe not now. It was actually, when I was a kid, I saw one lady smoking a cigarette yesterday. You see them regularly. It was very looked down upon when I was a child. For a lady to smoke cigarettes was considered to be very, very bad. Very bad. Or to drink liquor. It was there, but it was looked down upon, even in England. Looked down upon. A woman smoking a cigarette was considered disgusting. You were considered very low class. A reject, maybe. Even when I was a kid, for boys and girls to associate intimately together in public was also shunned. People would think, not good quality, not good character. That's just 70 years ago. We can see how things have changed now. In all over the world this has happened, not just in the West. Everywhere you see this. This degradation, changing of the paradigms of pious and impiety. Nothing's really changed, but we change our acceptance. Now in many countries abortion has become legal. I've heard it even in the constitution of some countries now. I won't mention which. But it's like, it's perfectly okay, because we have voted it's okay. And because we voted okay, therefore it must be okay. In any case, most people agree with us, so it definitely must be okay. Well, I don't know if anyone's ever asked the poor baby in the womb what they think about it. Probably not. After all, there's only 50 million abortions known a year, not very many. Not that much short of the total live births. Abortions are almost on the same level as live births. Live births are more, but abortions are also very high. There's a lot of abortions. That's known. Not to speak of those who are under the carpet, so to speak. So it's accepted as totally all right, normal. Safe is safe. This is a safe path. A safe path. Contraceptions, all these things are accepted as norms. Safe sex, they call it safe sex. Huh? What is this safe sex? Concoction. 100% irreligion. It's 100%. It's not partial, it's 100%. And they accept it as a norm. Even in, it's difficult not to say, but even in, institutionalized by the so-called protectors of religion. What chance is there of any realization of the self or God when we flaunt his, very words? None. Unless that change of heart takes place. Prabhupada goes on to say, they do not believe in the next life and not believe in the distinction between pious and impious, and although they are teaching them how to drink wine, eat meat, and become supposedly civilized, people are nevertheless afraid, at least in India, I think. I don't know the West, I don't know if people are afraid of this at all. But they're nevertheless afraid of the four activities of sinful life. There's still a little bit there, as a fact. Illicit sex, there's still some kind of, conscience there of some kind, or some kind of restriction is there. There's still some, it's not totally gone. Not totally. Some restriction on pornography and, underage and things like this, And dirty rules are there for certain types of sexual misbehavior. Strong rules in place sometimes. Something's still there. Meat eating, maybe some people have some sense. I don't think there's much institutional acceptance of the ills of meat eating, is there, in the world? In India, maybe a little bit here and there, but not much. It's pretty much part and parcel of our society, isn't it? What do you think?
But weren't there a couple of states in India where you could...
Yeah, in
cows?
India that's there.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to, especially with the cows, it's not allowed to kill cows in many states of India. Discouraged all over, but in some it's actually not allowed against the law. But in the rest of the world, there may be individual sentiments or group sentiments, but it's not looked down upon as in a society. And for instance, if you want to become a leader of a political group or a religious group, unless you're a vegetarian group itself, which is very few and far between, is not looked down upon. I mean, the first thing you look at in the character of a leader or in voting for a leader is their character. If they're a drinker, a smoker, a meat eater, a gambler, and one who likes very much to have sex, would you vote for them? The majority of people wouldn't really care about all that much unless it's a bit overboard, They come into Parliament totally drunk, or all day and night they're like walking around with a new girlfriend or something, or a boyfriend or whatever. But in normal situations, you don't take that isn't the case in most cases. But you wouldn't take that into account, What's wrong with that? He goes out with his mates and has a few pints at night after the Parliament session or something. What's wrong with that? No problem whatsoever. People don't take it as a serious factor, particularly. I mean, if they're a drunkard, that's something else. A little bit of drinking's okay. A little bit of stealing's okay, as long as it's not too much. Well, they only stole a little bit. It's not too bad. The character of the person, otherwise they can't see clearly. I mean, that's not the only qualification, but that's the basic one. Otherwise, there's no question of having clear vision or neutral vision. So there are these things. Whenever there's a religious festival, they gather together by the thousands. We have actual experience of this. Whenever the Krishna conscious movement holds a Sankirtan festival in a big city like Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, Ahmedabad or Hyderabad, thousands of people come to hear. Sometimes we speak in English, but even though most people do not understand English, they nevertheless come to hear us. Even when imitation incarnations of Godhead speak, people gather by the thousands. For everyone who is born in the land of India has a natural spiritual inclination and is taught the basic principles of spiritual life. They merely need to be a little more educated in the Vedic principles, that's all. A little bit more clarification. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Janma sartaka karikara para upakara. If an Indian is educated in the Vedic principles, he is able to perform the most beneficial welfare activity for the entire world. And what is that beneficial activity for the entire world? Welfare activity, what is it? Someone says Sankirtan. Because you would have to give a definition of that if one wanted to express that as in terms of what is it exactly. Many people, what would they say, majority of people in the world would say, what is the most beneficial welfare activity in the world?
Charity.
Pardon?
Charity. Feeding the poor.
Feeding the poor, maybe, yeah. Uplifting the poor, bringing equality amongst the, I say, various sects of the world. Females, males, poor, rich, whatever, sick people, whatever it may be. Uplifting people who are suffering. But that is based 100% on the Bhagavad Gita itself. Starts with this principle, doesn't it? Mundane compassion, basically speaking, and the falsity of mundane compassion. It's naturally going to go on, but that's not the real point of human life. What Tato Brahmajignana's Prabhupada said just now, or we heard just now. So yeah, uplifting the poor, the uneducated, the suffering. I suppose more or less like that, isn't it? And maybe some people think it's to help the dogs, uplift the dogs, feed the dogs or something. Very popular. For many people, dogs are more important in their life than humans, practically. In the West particularly. And in India it's coming in. The rich people now have become civilized in India, many of them. They have very fancy dogs now in India. That's many people, most people it would be upgrading, or as Christopher said, feeding the poor and all the various other factors involved, educating them, giving them good opportunity in life. Why should they be not denied this privilege to develop good karma? Bad karma. Whichever way you look at it.
People, during the distribution, when I say that develop compassion for humans, also for dogs and cats, they really like it when I say
They say that,
yes.
for dogs and cats. Yeah, what to say? Well, there's a limited compassion, in even if there is some good sentiment involved in that, then it usually stops there. They don't sort of think so much about, some people do, but most don't, compassion for the pigs, compassion for the cockroaches, compassion for the mosquitoes, compassion towards, the ants, compassion towards and even live and bigger animals like cows and goats and sheep and pigs and chickens. Well, I'm a vegetarian, but I eat chicken. Common answer. Oh yeah. I eat chicken well, I'm trying to stop. I know it's not good, but eggs are okay, aren't they? Eggs. I eat eggs. Fish. Especially if you're from Bengal. Any Bengal? Orissa and Bengal, they call it water vegetable.
There is some people, they just start eating hair.
Hair.
They don't want to eat fruit,
Hair?
vegetables.
Hair? Hair? You mean the hair on the head?
No hair, like
Well, then we can make a good business here. We can all set our hair when we shave up, make a bit of money. Air, eat air. Well, there's some yogis who do that. They live on air. Not many. There are some who they live on air. But even that, there are trillions of germs in the air. Trillions. Every time you breathe in, you're breathing in trillions of minute microbes of some kind or another. You can't really possibly live without some form of, you could say, harm in one sense. A matter of degree, and that which is authorized by Shastra. So what is the greatest welfare work in society? Is it to uplift the poor? Yes, it is, but how do we define the poor?
spiritually poor people.
Pardon?
They're lacking Krishna consciousness. They are poor.
Well, yeah, I think what you said the right thing, but for most people it means physically and poor or mentally challenged or whatever they call it. Helping people who are, don't have what's termed as the normal privilege of human life of some kind. But the mentioned here by Lord Chaitanya, that's not what he's talking about at all. Sometimes in Vrindavan and other holy places, you see elderly ladies. We could give other examples. Let's take the elderly ladies. And oftentimes they look very poor, maybe weak, a little skinny. They have nowhere really to stay. They're staying in some corner of a building or in a dharmshell somewhere. Little old ladies with no money and their little cup in front of them. Like you see the beggars in Paris, they also have little cups in front of them. And, all these poor old ladies. They have a whole movement now to try to uplift the poor old ladies, to give them, nice material facilities. Many of those poor old ladies were very rich ladies who chose this way of life, realizing this is really what, much more favorable for my real purpose of life, to go back to Godhead. A poor person is one who doesn't know the purpose of life. They're really poverty-stricken. They're engaged in activities under the modes of nature, under modes of ignorance, and basically, we could say, basically speaking, plotting out their own suffering in the future. By their being rich in this life, unless it's done in the proper way, according to religious principles, they are assuring themselves of poverty in the next life. How karma works. You exploit this world, then you have to undergo exploitation oneself. If we kill children in the womb, then we have to be killed in the womb also. Even it says if you kill a cow, even every hair on the body of the cow, isn't it? Where's that statement?
I think Lord Chaitanya makes that point.
With the Chankasi, pastime of the Chankasi. That we don't realize what we're doing. People are ignorant, totally ignorant. They don't believe in God. Really speaking. God is our order supplier, and we'll change it if it doesn't agree with what we want in many cases. What to do? At present, for a want of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, the entire world is in darkness. Having been covered by the four principles of sinful life: meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, and intoxication. They cover the good qualities of a human being also: mercy and cleanliness and truthfulness and austerity and so on are covered by these four activities. They destroy them. This is the four legs of religion are destroyed by these four sinful activities. How can you stand without legs? You may have some theory, but you don't have any means of living it, because your legs are broken. Therefore, there is a need for vigorous. You all know what vigorous means? Everybody knows what vigorous means? What does vigorous mean?
Energetic.
Huh?
Energetic.
A very energetic, yeah. A very strong endeavor. Very strong endeavor. Vigorous, probably uses the word vigorous. Vigorous propaganda to educate people to refrain from sinful activity. If you really want to find more out about this, read the purports in the first canto, Punishment and Reward of Kali. Very serious business, the leaders of society. Of course it won't go down well in most places in the world. Some of the things which are supposed to be done according to Shastra. Intoxication and meat eating, all these things are very strongly regulated, controlled. There's always going to be an element of society who's addicted in this way. But otherwise it's shunned and is not preached, it's not facilitated practically. Education, one time in Kansas City there was a court case in America, and there was a rule passed that in every school they had to teach this course on safe sex. There's a law passed, at least in that state. The headmistress, she was a headmistress, she said, I refuse to teach this course. You have to, otherwise you're going to get sacked, fired. You can do what you like, but I'm not going to allow it as long as I'm here. She took them to court. She won the case, actually. That if you're going to teach this, you also have to teach children not just how to have sex safely, but not to have sex unless you're married. No sex. You have to teach that also. She won the case. Probably not now, but this was a long time back. Yeah, they teach as if it's a norm, but just how to have sex without getting pregnant, that's all. That's what it means. It's for 14-year-old kids. They're teaching this to 8-year-old kids. Forced education. What can be done? The world we're living in. So education. This will bring peace and prosperity. The rogues, thieves, and debauchees will naturally decrease in number, and all of human society will be God-conscious. Pretty heavy purport. The practical effect of our spreading the Krishna conscious movement all over the world is that now the most degraded debauchees are becoming the most elevated saints. So a bit of a sobering statement there. Some of us, and not all of us, would definitely fit into the category of the most degraded debauchees. Addicted to intoxicants, sex life, eating anything that tastes good to our conditioned senses. Maybe gambling, maybe not, but sport, addicted to sport, which is also a form of gambling. Prabhupada says that this is only one Indian's humble service to the world. If all Indians had taken to this path, as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, India would have given a unique gift to the world, and thus India would have been glorified. I mean, we all know that letter that Prabhupada wrote to Mahatma Gandhi, practically begging him, now you've achieved your Swaraj, now dedicate your life to preaching the message of Bhagavad Gita. Come, let's preach together, Prabhupada said practically. You are famous, and because of your fame, people will listen. We can spread this message all over the world and save the world in its darkest hour. I doubt whether he even received the letter. Usually they have 100 secretaries between them and the public in many cases. But it didn't happen. Prabhupada said, otherwise you may die an inglorious death, which happened shortly after Prabhupada wrote that letter. They don't do it. They hang on to their political positions till the day they die. Mostly. Now, however, India has become known as a poverty-stricken country. Of course, there's a change there now. It's not known so much as a poverty-stricken country anymore. There is much poverty there, but as a country as a whole, it's considered to be quite economically well situated. In fact, there's more money probably than most, per head even. And whenever anyone from America or another opulent country goes to India, he sees many poor people lying by the footpaths, for whom there are not even provisions for 2 meals a day. And I'll tell you frankly, I mean, I've been going to India now since 1976, which is almost 50 years. There's far less now than there was before, even though there are more people. Far less. It's more of an exception, quite exceptional. Used to see people all the time walking around with leprosy and elephantitis and lying there with open sores and lying on the floor. Rarely you see that now. Very rare. changed a lot. You see that more. I see it more in the major cities of the West than I do in India. So many of them hanging around, whether they come from where they come from, but they're hanging around here. There are also institutions collecting money from all parts of the world in the name of welfare activities for poverty-stricken people. But they are spending it for their own sense gratification, and this is not just a kind of like an argument, but it's a fact. That so much of the welfare money, so to speak, to help poor people, doesn't reach the poor people. It doesn't happen like that. So many admin costs or personal costs involved, and who knows what's happening with it all. But pretty much everybody knows that. That is not just some sort of like, accusation. It's practically a fact. Now, on the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Krishna conscious movement has been started, and people are benefiting from this movement. Therefore, it is now the duty of the leading men of India to consider the importance of this movement and train many Indians to go outside of India to preach this cult. He probably uses the word cult here. There's nothing wrong with the word. It's a description. It's a culture. Culture is a culture. It's not like some dangerous word. It's used sometimes. But it's like, it's a culture. And the real cult is the cult of Krishna consciousness, based on practical Varnashram principles in terms of, day-to-day living. So you could say there's a cult. It's a culture. People will accept it. There will be cooperation among the Indian people and among the other people of the world, and the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will then be fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will then be glorified all over the world, and people will naturally be happy, peaceful, and prosperous, not only in this life, but also in the next. For as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, anyone who understands Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will very easily get salvation, or freedom from the repetition of birth and death, and go back home, back to Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore requests every Indian to become a preacher of his cult, to save the world from disastrous confusion. There's a lot there. Basically a summary of the overall picture which is being described here. Most welfare activity, people in India should take this up and preach so that people can get freed of suffering. Taking birth again is not the real solution, even if it is a good birth. It's to actually bring birth and death to an end. That's the real welfare activity. This is not only the duty of Indians, but the duty of, now Prabhupada takes it one paragraph further, it is not just the duty of Indians, but the duty of everyone. And we are very happy that American and European boys and girls are seriously cooperating with this movement. One should know definitely that the best welfare activity for all of human society is to awaken man's God consciousness, or Krishna consciousness. Therefore, everyone should help this great movement. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 22nd chapter, verse 35, which is quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Can someone look that up, please? 10th canto, chapter 22, 25, chapter 22, verse 35. Pardon? Sorry?
I'm looking for it and it's your lecture plate.
That's not Tavagatamritam Taptajivanam, is it? Can you look?
That's 10:31:9.
31. So 10, 22, 35. Look it up on the database.
You want in Sanskrit?
English.
English. Shall I read it?
Read it, yeah.
It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words.
Yes. This is something to do with in the forest of Vrindavan, isn't it? They're going into the forest and it's describing the trees or something of Vrindavan. I believe it's in that section.
Krishna steals the garments of the unmarried gopis.
It's in that chapter, right? Okay, maybe I got it wrong. I thought it was in when they're describing the qualities of the trees or something.
Yeah, just before it's true. These trees fulfill one's desire with their leaves, flowers, and fruits.
Okay,
Yes,
it is. It's in. I thought it was in that section. Yeah. Amazing that right there in the middle of that pastime, that verse comes up. It's like yes, welfare work. This is compassion. Therefore, the devotee is really compassionate. He pain, the devotee, this para upakara, this para dukkha dukkha, same thing. The devotee feels so much pain to see the sufferings of others. But he feels pain when he sees the suffering physically also, but he knows the real cause behind it is not just physical, though you may have to deal with the physical problems as well, of course. The real problem behind it is ignorance. Ignorance is the real problem of all the issues that we see in front. Whether it's quarrels, whether it's, poverty, whether it's violence, whatever it may be. Ignorance. To remove ignorance, darkness. Fears, stress, anxiety, pain. All these are results of one under the influence of ignorance. Any comments or questions?
Sometimes, occasionally some people say, you're a cult, and I say, not a cult, but a culture.
What do you say?
No, I say, occasionally some people, they say, you're a cult. And
You're a
I
cult,
say,
yeah.
not a cult, but a culture.
Culture, yeah.
Yeah. It's a good line.
Yeah. Yeah. Yogurt culture. Sometimes I say, yogi. This is about yoga. And some people, they used to say that, sometimes they say, but what's the book about? It's about yogurt. You told me it's about yogurt. There's nothing about yogurt in here. I said yoga. You don't need to use that now. Everybody knows the word yoga now. That's good.
Thank you for the class. I have a question related to yesterday's topic. We talked about, during the class we talked about, the day before yesterday, about sacrificing the body for the welfare of others. My question is it required in the spiritual life to advance spiritually? There should be, at some point, there should be a sacrifice of the bodily needs.
Like, on the altar, I'm sacrificing my body. Well, the sacrifice of the body means, at least from our point of view, others may interpret differently, but Krishna conscious point of view is in the mood of Rupa Goswami to utilize the body in a way which pleases Krishna. It's not just a question of sacrificing it full stop. Sacrifice is meant for the pleasure of Yogya Vishnu, for the pleasure of Krishna. So you have to find out what it is. And sometimes, there may be sometimes that the one would naturally reduce, for instance, eating or whatever it may be. But that's not something which is, necessarily definable by a mechanical definition. It's what is favorable for one may or may not be favorable for another, and at different times of our lives it should be a natural thing. Now there may be a certain element of force, but it shouldn't be that is the, let's say, imposition on people. It should be voluntary, you accept that. And of course in society, in any society there are restrictions in society. Even in atheistic societies, there are certain rules to follow, and certain punishments for those who don't follow them. There are a certain degree of regulation and restriction everywhere in human life, particularly. But as impositions, but what one has to look at is not so much the activity itself. There are many people, maybe on the spiritual path in one sense, who may be very austere in terms of hardly eating or just eating air, or hardly sleeping, if at all, and living very austerely. I read a little article on this man. His claim for fame is that he lives on an iceberg in the Himalayas, an ice glacier. He sleeps on the glacier, and he's not dressed with very much either. It's not like he's got, you know, a massive kind of like anti-frost outfit. He's just like dressed like a normal person, and he sleeps on the iceberg. Yeah.
I met the Swami of Adarsh who came to France a few months ago, and he was showing his photographs and videos. So
He came to France?
He came to France, and it was freezing. It was in January, but he was putting a fan for him because
Too hot.
It was really,
Oh, he actually came out of his glacier. Huh?
And he showed the photo that he remains without clothes, without shirt on the
And he was
minus
hot, and it was freezing cold here.
For him, the France was super hot, and he was really sweating.
Yeah, you know.
I saw him sweating, and I was like, nah.
Oh, it's actually a real fact. Amazing, huh? You know, you can't always judge.
For him, especially a fan for him, you know, in the room, and it was.
You had to put a fan for him in the middle of winter, you know. You know, that's not our goal of life. You know, we want to do that which helps to develop our attraction for Krishna. So whatever's favorable there, whatever is impediment, we try to minimize or reduce or remove as time goes on. And if we can't utilize it in Krishna's service, sometimes we have to restrict it. But this is a very, it's a really important subject matter, but it's something which is not an absolute definition other than that which is favorable for the pleasure of Krishna. And what may be different from one person to the next, you can't impose on another. You know, it's like Prabhupada said with Jayananda, for instance. Jayananda Prabhu, one of the senior disciple of Prabhupada, because he worked so hard, therefore can eat like an elephant practically. But he was working so hard for Prabhupada. And even if he falls asleep in class, Prabhupada would not chastise him. Others he would. Because he was doing like 18 hours non-stop service a day, practically, non-stop. Of course that includes going on Harinam, it includes, all the things you do within those 18 hours, There was no question of stopping, and he had nothing in return. He never asked for a thing in return. No recognition, nothing. So someone like that, if we just imitate one side of it, Prabhupada said you can eat like an elephant. If you work like Jayananda, you can also eat like Jayananda. Bhima was the same. Bhima couldn't follow Ekadashi. That's where we have, so they say anyway, Nirjala Ekadashi, right? Couldn't follow it. So once a year, okay, I'll give it a go once a year. Even that we can't do practically. Yeah. And Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, I think in 72. It was Kartik. And everyone knows Urjavrata, that means special things you do during the month of Damodar, restrictions or applications, do's and don'ts, meant to be performed in Kartika. And one of Prabhupada's disciples said, Srila Prabhupada, because they didn't know much in those days, is there any special, austerities we should do during this month, Prabhupada? Prabhupada said, yes. You should give up all eating and sleeping and chant Hare Krishna 24 hours of the day. That's what he said. And then the devotees started, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Prabhupada said, that's another madness. You can't do it. That wasn't so much, he was more into the positive side. Try to keep yourself fully engaged in devotional service. Try to find out what you as an individual person, how you can become more pleasing to Krishna. And what maybe this person and you are not the same. You haven't got the same mind and body as that one. What will please Krishna, according to what you've been given. Some things are general, but many things are specific according to the individual's situation. Many devotees, I remember this one boy, he joined, Michael Critchley his name was. He joined the temple in 1972 in London. And he we were only hearing about, we didn't have the Chaitanya Charitamrita published, but we would hear about Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami would sometimes, he would only just take a little poundful of, buttermilk. Or when he was in Puri, he was taking the rotten rice, left over by the cows, washing it. And that was all he was eating, So we'd hear these things. So he somehow he thought, I'm going to follow in the footsteps of Raghunath Das. And he started to try to imitate his austerity. What we heard was austerity, so to speak. He tried to sleep not more than 2.5 hours a day. And he would only eat food from the garbage can, nowhere else. And he was chanting 64 rounds a day. Even if, literally, he would stand under the cold shower with the tap on, chanting japa. In his gumcha, with the beads, chanting japa under the cold shower to keep awake. To finish his quota. Was that pleasing to Prabhupada? Doesn't look like it. Prabhupada banned him from ISKCON eventually. Because his other side of him came out in time. Another side to his inner hadn't been purified of that. Imitation. Well, Prabhupada never asked anyone to do that. Imitation. You can't achieve a purpose by imitation because someone else is doing it. And then we had this whole thing in ISKCON, 64 rounds a day on Kadashi. No eating, no drinking, stay up all night. Didn't last long, did it? Many devotees got sick, and in most cases it evolved in the increase of pride. The next day, at class, I personally witnessed it. Prabhu, how did your Ekadashi Vrata go yesterday? Or how did it go? Did you get 64 rounds done? Oh no, Prabhu, I'm sorry, I didn't really follow. Never mind. You'll come there eventually. This type of speaking would be there. Keep trying. This is detrimental to Krishna consciousness, not favorable. You don't declare your austerities anyway. You don't make it a public affair. On top of that, you certainly shouldn't feel proud of it. And certainly you shouldn't make others feel lesser because they're not doing what you think is, more. That's not at all the mood of favorable to Krishna. That's a little bit like what Hanuman was thinking, when they were building the bridge across the Lanka. In one version it says squirrel, in one version it says spider, whatever it was a little creature wanted to help build the bridge, pushing some grains or pebbles in. Get out the way, get in the way, get out of the way, we have important business here, we're doing big service, out the way, you little fella. What did Lord Ram say? He said, yeah, get out the way, come on, Hanuman's got big service to do here, you'll get in the way there. What did Lord Ram say? Who knows?
He's as dear.
Huh?
He explained to Hanuman, no, he's as dear.
Yes. What he's doing is, it's not that your service is bigger than his service. He's acting according to his capacity for me. You're acting according to your capacity for me, but you're proud of it. He's not proud of it. You're puffed up. Well, this is part of the Leela. It's not puffed up, really. I mean, it's part of the Leela, part of the Lord's plans. So you have to be careful there. You become attached to austerity rather than Krishna sometimes. Become attached to the results rather than the person we're doing it for. Attached to the facilities rather than understand that they all belong to Krishna. They're only meant for his pleasure. Position, attached to position. Attachments can be there, even to austerities. Attached to being known as a person who sleeps on the glacier without any clothes on, practically. Attached to, whatever. Austerity. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Premanandi.